Go time. Welcome everybody to another SoCast webinar. Always one of my favorites. I want to welcome you all to our third website Smackdown. This is truly one of my favorites. We've made it an annual. Who knows? Maybe we'll make it happen twice this year. But it's always such a fun one, and I love the participants we have today, who I'll introduce you to momentarily. This is really a live event where we brought a panel of experts, all focused around digital, to really critique all of some radio station websites that you all were kind enough to submit. I want to thank everybody who submitted websites to us, and certainly we are very open to doing any critical analysis of your websites and doing a little review with you, using our SoCast expertise. But today we are going to look outside of SoCast. Well, at least two of us are not with SoCast, to provide you with some great insights into what makes great radio stations. And we're going to focus on a variety of different criteria. I'll tell you more about that momentarily. But we have selected just 3 websites because we could really, based upon the response, we could really be here just all day. We had a ton of response, and that was excellent. And we're looking forward to sharing with you all of the websites that we are going to critique. I do want to say the objective here is not to rip anybody's websites apart. It's really to show the strengths and maybe some opportunities that each of these websites have, so you can all go back and implement some of these ideas on your own digital properties to make them more effective from an audience engagement standpoint and from a revenue generation standpoint. And that really is effectively what we're hoping to do, is really give you a sense of what you can do to improve your websites and take them all to the next level. A little bit of housekeeping just to get us started. We are taking questions in the sidebar. You can check off the little box with questions and responses. We do have my colleague Shay, who will be moderating those. As I always say, if we don't get to these questions, don't worry, we will definitely get back to you in very short order. Certainly we welcome all questions and feedbacks, and also, please feel free to get social. You can use Twitter at SoCast is our handle, and hashtag us with the website Smackdown. We love your feedback and comments there. We also always love our digital dollars hashtag as well. So, please feel free to share your thoughts on that. My name is Eric Eisen. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at SoCast, and I will be your host for this amazing Smackdown. Before we get into it, a little word from our sponsor, us here at SoCast. Our objective is to always work with our broadcast partners to make digital growth easy. And when I say that, a couple of points of emphasis. One, SoCast is a solution that has been built exclusively for radio broadcast. We have been working tirelessly over the last almost 9 years to provide our broadcast partners with solutions to help them manage their websites, mobile apps, social media, Alexa smart skills, and we have some great revenue tools as well that you can reach out to me and talk to me about. The great thing about SoCast, it is a single dashboard for all of you to manage all of your content online, as well as your advertising, everything from all of the owned and operated display inventory you have on your websites and mobile apps, as well as a programmatic ad solution that will definitely drive some significant revenue. We can help you with your websites, as I mentioned, your mobile app, all of your digital ad solutions. We can help you with Alexa voice skills, social relationship management as well. And if you need any consultation, we'd be happy to offer our expertise at any time for you. Our objectives today are really, as I mentioned earlier, to help you find ways you can improve your listener engagement and user experience on your websites. We want to talk about how you can optimize social media to enhance your audience experience and definitely drive engagement, whether you're measuring that just by, some of the, your membership to your social media platforms, or to effectively drive traffic back to your websites. We want to talk a little bit about how you can increase your revenue on your websites. And we also just want to assess what are great strengths and some opportunities on the sites that we've selected for critique today. We're going to look at a few different criteria. We have experts really a great cross-section of our experts today and our panelists bring a lot of insights into the design and branding on websites. We'll talk a little bit about social media and the navigation and just generally the user experience for both your prospective advertisers and advertising partners, as well as, of course, your listeners. So we really want to, give you as much information as we can on what a great website should be. My first panelist I want to introduce is my very good friend, Bret Mega. He is an outstanding social media Jedi based out of Dallas. He is the morning show host on Hot 93.3 in the DFW, and he started working at 103.5 KISS FM in Spokane, Washington, before moving to 105.7 Now FM, which is now syndicated in 6 markets. He then moved to Memphis to join KWNW, and after spending some time in Memphis, he became the co-host of the Power Morning Show in Atlanta on Power 96.1. That show climbed quickly from 18th place to be one of the top-rated morning shows in Atlanta. And after quickly rising to the top in Atlanta, Bret moved to Dallas in 2016 and has had a huge impact on the DFW community, the Dallas-Fort Worth community, and loves getting out there. He has helped me out at the radio show last year, and he is going to provide you with some great social media insights. I'm thrilled to have him. If I could hear your applause, I would ask for them for Mr. Bret Mega. So thank you. Thanks for joining me today, Bret.
Appreciate it, man.
Coming back again this year for more punishment from me is the digital dot connector, the one and only Seth Resler from Jacobs Media. He is a programming and digital expert who has really worked across the country. He's no stranger to the radio ring, and he's a broadcasting veteran who for over 2 decades has worked almost every aspect of radio, from behind the mic to the programming desks in major markets around the company. He's a champion who's known as the digital dot connector, and he thrives on helping radio stations combine all of their digital tools into one overarching strategy. So again, big round of applause in the virtual world for Mr. Seth Resler. Seth, awesome to have you back. I love that you're back for this. You were amazing last year, and we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun last year. I'm glad to be back.
Great. Most excited for my good friend Kat Harleton, our SoCast's very own client success guru. She will bring a ton of digital user experience expertise to this webinar today. She thrives on helping broadcasters succeed every single day and is online, on the phone, all day, every day, helping SoCast partners get the most out of our platform from both an engagement and revenue standpoint. She is a great blogger in her own right and has a very successful blog, The Harleton Empire, which you should all subscribe to and check out above and beyond all the work she does at SoCast. I have no clue how she does all of the things she does, and she deals with both the happiest and angriest of our clients all the time with a smiling face. We try to fire her at least once a day, but she keeps coming back for more punishment. Kat, I'm super excited that you're joining us today, and thank you for being a first-timer as a panelist on our website, Smackdown.
Well, hopefully I've learned a few things at SoCast, so thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to rumble. Let's get ready for the website Smackdown. All right. The first thing we're going to do is just go over some of the criteria. Again, we're going to look at the overall website design and how appealing it is to the audience. We're going to look at branding and look at the websites. Does it present a strong brand to the audience? Is it clear? We're going to look at the quality of content. We're going to evaluate the social integration and how they effectively pull in and link and get to their social media profiles. We'll also be looking at things like revenue generation and just the overall ease of navigation on the site. So the first site we want to look at today is a really interesting site, actually, and it is 22 West Media. And again, the 4 areas of focus we want to really look at are the UX and the flow of the site, all of the engagement on this site, and whatever revenue opportunities, and of course, talk a little bit about their social media. So my first question is going to go out to Bret. Bret, why do you just in general think social media is so important for a radio station and for, you know, to integrate into their website in general?
I think for me, it's the like I guess the metaphor I would use, like if your website was like a tree and has like created this like foundation, it's like the branches that reaches out and gets out to people, right? Like in a metaphorical, symbolic way. And so like a lot of times the regular people, they just don't go and like search people's or radio stations websites. It's not like a common search, but like if you can connect them on a social level and make this intimate connection with them, and then when you tweet out a link or you Facebook out information, they'll click on it and then they could find this website that could be just a source full of information. So for me, this website is like part of your advertising, part of your brand, what you're getting, but then like social media like helps advertise the website. So it's like another branch to what's happening. So it's what connects you to the audience, I think.
Great. And looking at this website, and of course, you know, prompt me if you want me to look at some of their social media profiles for you. You know, what is your sort of assessment of how effective 22 West Media is incorporating social media into their website? And, you know, do you have any guidance as to things you think are both strengths and opportunities for this group?
Well, I think the first thing is like you can see that the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all like are linked up right at the top. So that's nice. I mean, it could be like that's more of a style preference or anything like that if you want them to pop or understand it, because it kind of just blends in a little bit. It's more of a stylistic thing. But it does have a really easy access to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So I know where those are at and I can have a better understanding. And I also think that like if you want to highlight your strengths, right? So if you a lot of websites, and I think another website that we're going to get to in a second has, you know, your Twitter on the website and you can see the tweets that are constantly happening. If that's not your strength, then fine, you can hide it. But you know, it just links to your Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and doesn't really highlight what I'm going to get there and what type of content I'm going to get by clicking on the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
So you feel like there's an opportunity for them to integrate, you know, maybe some of that social media content more effectively onto their website.
Yeah, maybe give me a teaser of what to expect. Like when you see our Instagram or a link to our Instagram or the content we have, what can I expect from your Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter? And I think that message can be clear on the website without becoming too messy, right? You could just have a little teaser of what to expect.
Bret, did you have a chance to look at their Twitter feed, and do you have any sort of guidance or feedback into, you know, some of the strengths and opportunities that you can extend out, not just to 22 West per se, but just as good guidance in general for our webinar attendees today, as it you know applies to Twitter or Facebook or Instagram?
What's happened, like one of the things I noticed with 22 West Media is, and I think we're all guilty of it, is we have this easy platform like Instagram that makes it really accessible to go to Facebook and Twitter, and it makes it like now it's like cool, I only got to post this thing once and then it can just link, so you can kind of see like swipe for our shows. Like you don't swipe on Twitter, so the messaging that it has on Twitter isn't the same messaging you would use on Twitter. You're using Instagram language. You're using a different dialect right here. Like, I don't even know what's going on. I can't swipe. How do I swipe? So the message isn't even the same from Twitter to Instagram. And so we're all just guilty of that. Like, oh man, it's the one-stop shop. I just want to post it to everything. But
that looks like it's cross-posted from Tinder, I think.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, exactly. It might as well been like, hey, like, is it my Tinder profile? Is it my Instagram profile? Because we don't swipe on Twitter. And so I think the messaging, like, I think taking those extra steps in time to making sure your platform reads correctly and accurately is important. And I think, like, I honestly believe that the dialogue will be different on each of those platforms. How we approach Twitter is this like fluid, constant form of information, right? So it could be quick, short, like it can be just really clean. Or Instagram, you might, on a feed post, you might be able to dive more in depth, or Facebook, you would approach it differently. And each of them should be treated differently instead of just kind of the one-stop shop for everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's great feedback. Any other, you know, diving deeper into that, and you know, I'm sort of, I had the opportunity to be with you on a panel with you in Dallas actually back in the fall, and I thought one of the great things you did, and you sort of just did that, but I'd love for you to expand on it for our attendees. can you sum up really the differences between how to like what each platform is most effective for? So, the difference between Twitter and Facebook and Instagram per se, and how you would recommend our audience use each one.
Yeah, understanding who your demographic is and who your audience is and how they react is super important. And like, I think it was almost after we had done our panel, but there was this viral post that maybe people had saw that everyone posted their pictures based off their social media platform. Like Instagram, you would be perfect and clean and using filters. And if you go to someone's feed, it all has a very similar style and feel to it, where Twitter can be kind of a little bit dirty. Like, I think it's just trying to get as quick and fast information out there, and you want people to click as fast as possible. And then Facebook, I feel like, is probably the most personal, because the way it started was with friends and family, and it was a little bit more intimate who you were friending and treating. And so I think Facebook has this more personal touch to it. Instagram has this more perfect touch. And I think, Twitter has a little bit more fluid of information you're trying to get out there.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. Seth, last year we talked a lot about your usability test, and I frankly read it. I've read a number of things that you've posted on the usability test. The test to use when assessing the website's user experience. From your position, how does this site rate in terms of the usability? And can you share some ideas with our audience on how to conduct their own usability tests?
Yeah, so what a usability test is it's qualitative research. It's not the sort of down to the decimal research where we're going to know everything. What we do is we go and we get 3 people. Honestly, I usually get them off of Craigslist, and we bring them in one at a time. In fact, I conducted one earlier this week, and we couldn't bring them into the office anymore because of everything that's going on. So it was the first time I'd ever conducted a usability test over Zoom, and it worked fine over Zoom. And what you do is one at a time, you have people pull up a website and you ask them to do some basic things and to think out loud while they're doing it. You might say, hey, you want a prize from the station. Where do you go to pick it up? And you see what they do, and you see if they can figure out the answer. And if they can, everything's great. And if not, you need to tweak something to make it a little bit easier to use. But it's really about those sort of slap yourself on the forehead, oh, I can't believe we didn't think of those things kind of things. And I taught myself how to do usability tests. There's a great book by a guy named Steve Krug, Krug. It's called Rocket Surgery Made Easy. It's the kind of book that you can read in an hour. It's big font and lots of pictures. And this is what he does. He runs usability tests for a living, and he teaches you how to do it. And that was how I taught myself to do it. And now we do it on radio station websites all the time. But the first question we always ask when we bring up a website is we always say, what does the organization that runs this website do? And I have never seen in my life a website pass that question the very first time. Including websites that I have built, knowing that I was going to test it and that was going to be the first question. Never seen it. And that was true earlier this week too. And so the question is, if people came here, and you said, what does this organization do? Would they be able to figure it out? And I think the first place people are going to look is go 22 West Media. That was the first place I looked, and I wasn't sure. I thought it was a media company that might do some things. This did not immediately look to me like a radio station. I figured that out the more I delved into it, but I didn't have that immediate reaction. And I think if you're a radio station, what you want people to do, just by looking at the top left corner, because that's where everybody's eyes are going to go first, is you want them to know, A, this is a radio station. And I have actually run usability tests where it took people 10 minutes to figure out that they were looking at a radio station website. B, where that radio station is. C, what type of music you would expect to hear on that radio station, and who the core artists are. To be honest, a lot of radio station websites don't pass that. We're so used to talking to people on the air, and all those people are in the same city that we're in, that, if you're in Dallas, you don't have to say every single time you mic up, hey, we're in Dallas. But with a website, people could be coming to you from anywhere all over the world. Maybe they got here because they clicked on a link that they saw on Facebook that looked interesting, and you want them to know immediately where this radio station is. So and it's tougher when you have a radio station that, if your radio station is 93.7 WKRP, people are going to look at that and they're going to go, okay, it's a radio station. But if you're the hawk, it then becomes tougher. And so I think you've got to make that clear, right, from the initial impression.
That's great feedback. Kat, moving over to you, what opportunities do you feel that this site has, to improve, the user experience, and what strengths and opportunities do you see on this site?
Similar to Seth, I believe, I also wasn't sure that this was a radio station site. When you first sent it to me, I almost asked you if this was right. Because like I see the magazine tab there, and so is it an online magazine? Is it a lifestyle blog? Is it a radio station? Also at the very top, I believe that's where their listen live button is, but to me that looks like a leaderboard ad. So I didn't know if that was one of those crazy ads that look like something it's not, or if it was the listen live button. But in general, I like this site. I mean, I like the branding. I think it was clean and crisp and very modern, if you want to call it that. I like that it uses the full width of the screen, so there's kind of no outside space. And I actually also really like their advertising page. I thought it made it really clean and clear about where their advertising sections are and how much that costs. And if you're a beginner advertiser or a beginner small business, you don't know how this works necessarily, and all of this explains it very clearly, like the different spaces you can buy on the website and the areas that can showcase your ad.
Cool.
Can I echo something that the Kat said? When you look over on the left, you see a donate button and you see a contact us button. And what's nice about those is they look like buttons, right?
Yeah.
I know that that's something that I can click on and it's going to do something. And I know what donate, I know where that's going to take me when I see it. And I know what contact us is going to take me. The play button doesn't actually look like a play button. It's pushed into and the same color as the logo. And so it wasn't clear to me that that was a play button when I first saw it. In fact, I thought the radio online was a button. Those look like buttons. And so I would think about what your most important call to action is. And I would make those look like buttons and I would put them in the top right corner. For this station, I think donate is probably, in all stations that are supported by listener donations, that's really important, probably deserves to go in the top right corner. And for just about every station, listen deserves to go in the top right corner. I'm a Doctor Who fan, and in the 50th anniversary episode of Doctor Who, he finds the most powerful weapon in the universe, and it's this small little box. And he's looking at it, and he doesn't know how it works or what to do. And he says, how come there's never a big red button? And I always think about that when I look at radio station websites. Like, I should look at a radio station website and know what it wants me to do. And there should be a big, it doesn't have to be red. Yellow might be the color on this website because it would stand out against the teal that it uses. But there should be a big red button right in the top right that is the most important thing you want me to do when you come to the website.
Great, I agree. And one of the reasons I picked this website is because I think, it's got so many strong things, as Kat mentioned, from a branding perspective. I think it's got, I like the look and feel of it. I like, it's very modern, and I like that a lot. But I do think there's an opportunity to sort of clarify, what the brand of 22 West Media is and what it's hoping to achieve. I want to move on to our next website, which is WLEN Radio, 103.9 FM. And, I wanted to maybe ask Bret and start off with you. Earlier you had mentioned, integration of having your social media feeds on your website, so it's a bit of a teaser. How do you feel WLEN has done, and what do you recommend as an opportunity for them to take it to the next level, or what are they doing really effectively?
Well, I mean, they do a good job of okay, so I get a glimpse of their Facebook page and I get a little teaser of their Twitter. And so I know what to expect. And you could tell, even we talked about the language. it has that language. You could tell retweet for Twitter, that's a tweet, and it wasn't just set for multi-platforms. And then the Facebook is a video and a Facebook post. So you're good. You get a good concept just from the website of what the type of content you can expect from the Facebook page. And then it makes it really easy. Like the page, click on the Facebook page, and let's begin to kind of search and understand what it is to be like a Facebook friend with this radio station. I think with this is one of I did click on the Twitter though, and if I remember correctly, I think they hadn't tweeted though since 2019 though. And so at one point, is that correct, or is it a different website?
It could be a different website. We'll check out the next one because they seem to be pretty active. Retweeting some content. Absolutely.
Did they have an Instagram? I was trying to find my notes here.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see if they have an Instagram, but
it looks like it was linked only to Facebook and Twitter.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's a different website that it tweeted a year ago. But yeah, they didn't have an Instagram, which I thought was interesting because Instagram is such a universal platform like we talked about before. Instagram has made it really easy for us to go to Facebook and Twitter and all of our other ones, but then it wasn't linked to their Instagram from the website. So it didn't make it easily accessible to Instagram, which I think is becoming one of the biggest platforms.
With Instagram, and we talked about it on the last station. What have you found success with as some of the keys to successful Instagram posting for our audience?
I like Instagram because I feel like it could be that one-stop shop. Like with Instagram, it has this opportunity for you to engage with audience in many different ways, where we talked about Facebook being personal and Twitter being fluid in information. You can kind of do a little bit of all of that on Instagram. With Insta Stories, it allows you to constantly be quickly giving out information and also tease you and link things back from your Twitter, from your Insta Story for more content, linking you to your website. It kind of can hook you. So the Insta Story allows you to almost have this like video version or picture version of Twitter, where it's like just swipe up for more. And you're like, all right, I'm craving more. I've gotten a little bit of it. And then the feed gives you a really good picture perfect version of yourself. All right. So I have these really artistic and awesome photos, or I have this great content that I can feel comfortable deep diving in. And it's also really user accessible for videos. Like when you go to IGTV, you might have a video that's 2 minutes long and it's not difficult to listen. You don't have to click on multiple links. You're just watching it. And then it says, keep watching. You click, keep watching, and boom, you have more content. So what I love about Instagram, and what I think Instagram is such an important platform for us, is because it gives us everything. It's so well-rounded.
Right. That's great. Seth, do you think, the navigation and the messaging on this site is clear? And if you were looking at it from like your usability test, how do you think from your analysis that this qualifies?
Yeah, so one of the things that we'll do in a usability test is we will say to people, go through the main menu. And don't click on the items in the main menu. You can hover over them, but don't click on them, and tell us what you would expect to see if you did click on them. So as we go through this, home, everybody's going to know what home is. Our story, I think, is going to be the history of the radio station. You tell us a little bit about it. News, that's pretty straightforward. Sports, that's pretty straightforward. On air is a term that we see a lot in radio station websites, and it can mean different things. I mean, really everything you do is on air. So is that a playlist? Is that shows? Is that DJs? Here they actually have it in submenus, and you can kind of see that it's all of the above. But on air is a term to generally be wary of and to watch out for. Advertise, I wish more radio stations would put an advertise link right up in the main menu. That's one of the most important things that people can do on your website. Obviously, not everybody's going to do it, but the ones who do are really, really valuable. So make it, if somebody wants to give you money, make it really easy for them. Don't bury that advertised link just in the footer. Classifieds, I think I know what I'm going to get if I click on that. Giving, I have a feeling it has something to do with donations or giving back to the community. Other media, I think I know what that is too, and it looks like podcasts. One of the things to watch out for in these menus is that they are often written with a presumption of knowledge that, you know, for a P1, it's going to make sense. But if somebody is new to the radio station and this is the first time they're coming here, it might not make sense. So if you go back to other media for a second, I know what podcasts are. I'm not sure what kids in the community is. I don't know what the 4-H'er of the week is. Those are specific terms that P1 listeners of the radio station are going to know, but other people might not. So you might need to give a little bit more explanation. I even saw a radio station website once that, you know, they list Coachella in their menu. And yeah, a lot of people know what Coachella is, but some people don't. So you might have to say Coachella concert, for example. Are there ways that you can use that language? When you go on to DJs, for example, a lot of radio stations will list their DJs there. The order makes total sense to the person who put them there, but if you're not familiar with the station, it may not make sense. People may not realize that the first DJ listed is the morning show, the second one is the midday person, and so it's helpful to put, you know, the time slot that they're in, or mornings and, you know, middays and afternoons. So really be thinking about that language as you go through the menu. Does this make sense to somebody who is not super familiar with the radio station? Are they going to know what this is going to take me to?
Yeah. You know, from a branding perspective, Kat, and from, you know, from being able to identify what this station is, how do you think they do? And what user experience opportunities do you see for, you know, our friends at WLEN?
So this actually looks very similar to a lot of client sites that we have as far as layout. What I do think is it's a little dark to me, like, so it makes the center content area seem smaller than it could be. So even if they change the background from black to white, it instantly makes that space seem bigger. The other thing is they have this sidebar in the right-hand side, which a lot of people use, and that's fine. But all of those ads in there, the images are bigger than any of the images in the news section. So right away, like, I'm just looking at ads where if you really want people to click on your content, you want the images to be the big kind of engaging element, or the videos. And speaking of videos, right at the top of the page, they have a section for a video, and there's just code in there, right? So every day on my own website, I go over the homepage and make sure my widgets are working. Maybe there was an update, make sure, you know, the images look correct, or that they're the way they're supposed to be, just kind of general health. The other thing I was looking at was the on-air part that Seth mentioned. And they do have an announcer section, and it seems like maybe their announcers are one of their bigger draws. And then so you go to the announcers page, and it's just kind of their bio and an image. So where are their blogs? Where are their social media? Even that page you're on right now, I think that's their program schedule, which I don't really understand how to read. So maybe a grid format would be better. So there's just little tweaks you could make to the content that would make it easier for people to find, especially elderly people or people who have disabilities.
Yeah, well, that's great. I want to move on to, you know, I noticed that one of the things, and Kat, you know, this was sort of one thing you brought to our attention, is the link to the classifieds takes them off. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, just in general, any links you have on your site that go to anywhere that's not your site, now you're taking people away, and there goes your advertising opportunities. But also, anyone who's ever shopped online knows what makes you want to buy a product. It's the images, it's the feeling of the site. And so classifieds is basically an online store. So the images are small here. There's a lot of bright text. Like, this doesn't make me want to buy anything or scroll around and look for things. So you could just make it better by, again, making small tweaks, make the images bigger and make the layout friendlier, and, you know, make me want to buy something.
Yeah, I would say also just consistent branding with the site from which you're being directed to, you know, that's an opportunity as well. So, you know, there seems to be a little bit of a break between the strong, you know, what is stronger WLEN branding on the home site over to the classifieds as well. I want to move over to our third and final website that we're going to look at today, and this is KBest. Seth, immediately going to, what is it you see in this site that you like, and what are some of the opportunities that you see that you can share with our audience and our friends at KBest?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I like about this, and I would like to see this on a lot more radio station websites. As soon as I came to this website, I knew exactly what it was. I knew that this was a radio station. I knew that they were in Big Spring, Texas. I knew what position to tune my dial to if I wanted to hear it. I knew that they played country music. I'm not a big country music fan, so I don't know who these people necessarily are scrolling through this slideshow. But what I really like, I presume that those are the core artists. And I think that's really important. I think not enough radio stations, websites give you an idea of if you were to tune into this radio station, what would you hear? And with this, I know exactly what I would get. So I think that's fantastic that immediately I just knew what this was all about. I might put names of the artists there with it because, artists we tend to hear and we tend to hear their names more than we see their pictures. I don't necessarily know what every single artist looks like, but I thought that was great. The thing that I think we're missing here is a really big listen now button. I don't know if you click on that on air now in the top right corner, can I click on that to play? Like if I want to hear the radio station, I don't actually know what I click on to do
Yeah,
that.
it seems like the listen online is below the fold here.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the good news is it looks like a button, but yeah, it's below the fold. That belongs right up there in the in the top right corner, because that is arguably the most important thing that people can do when they come to the website.
Absolutely. Kat, from your perspective, what sort of recommendations and things did you notice on this website?
So right off the top, they have a headline ticker there just above what I kind of think is the feature rotator. And I really like that, but the problem was it doesn't take me anywhere. So to me, a headline ticker is for breaking news or weather updates or hurricane or whatever the case is. And you want that information. So now where do I go to find the stuff that's in the ticker? Some of the other things were, I just think stations in general need to decide what their content is. So like they have a news section on here, then they have maybe some promotions or some more stuff below, then they have another news section. And so it's like, what am I supposed to be looking at? Are you a sports station who also plays country music? Are you a news station? Are you just a country music station who has some news content? I'm not really sure like what the mission is, I guess. So maybe just decide what your biggest draw is, what does the best for your station, and then make that your main content. Like they have, looks like really great interviews, but does that need to be the first biggest thing on the website?
Right. Cool. Turning over to our social media Jedi, Bret, from your perspective, how do you feel they've successfully or unsuccessfully integrated social media? And then we can happily look at some of their social media profiles, Facebook and Twitter, and get your assessment on that. But what recommendations do you have for our friends at KBest?
Yeah, well, like we talked about before, just having the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram icons up at the top. They're all they look like the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook icons instead of like we talked about before on the website. I don't know if it's a preference thing for people, but to me, it doesn't blend in. It makes you stand out and go, okay, cool, I know exactly what that is. This is the station that I clicked on. They didn't tweet a lot, but they Facebooked a lot, so you could tell which their favorite was and what they had leaned on. So like at Facebook, they had these really cool messages about birthday wishes and things like that they were doing, and they had great content. But then when I had clicked on their Twitter, they did not tweet, and so you could tell they had a preference of which social media they liked and preferred. It was like May 2019, we're approaching a year since they had tweeted. And so just being consistent across your brand and exactly what your message is, like kind of Kat had talked about, is this is what's linked up, this is what we're doing, and this is the platforms we're going with.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that, there's a lot of content on their Facebook, and it's great content.
Yep.
And perhaps they could be promoting that and driving some traffic back to their website as well, to drive traffic back to, some of the content on their website. Well, that's great. One other question I have for all three of you, and I want to give you an opportunity. I'll give you both, all three of you, an opportunity to wrap up. But also, obviously we're in crazy unprecedented times, and radio station websites, from our perspective at SoCast, we know that website traffic is up significantly. We know people are listening more online. It doesn't mean every single radio station, but on average, we can tell what's happening, and we've seen a massive spike in traffic as people are relying on their local their local radio stations to be that central news hub to provide them information around the COVID crisis that we're in. Starting with you, Seth, what do you recommend that radio stations sort of consider in this day and age to incorporate COVID sensitively, but also to make sure that they are that local community hub for that information?
Yeah, I've looked at a lot of radio station websites, and I think the first reaction with COVID was to basically treat it like another radio station promotion. We'll create a web page, we'll stick a slide in the slideshow on the home page. Maybe we'll put a banner on every page just to because it's so big. And I think we are now, now that everybody's gone through the emergency of figuring out how their DJs can broadcast from home and they're dealing with whatever's going on with the clients, now it's time to step back and go, okay, this is going to be a much bigger, longer thing than we thought it was going to be initially. And we shouldn't just be treating it like it's a really big spring book promotion for the radio station. And, in other words, it's not just about shoving content into the existing framework. It's possible that the entire framework of the website needs some changes because of this. I always start with a website by asking people, when folks come to your website, what do you want them to do? What's the goal? And I think that's true even, under the pandemic. What do you want people to do here? And some of those answers are going to be the same as they were before the pandemic. We still want people to listen. We would love it if they would advertise. There may be other things that are not as important. Maybe it's not about trying to get people to enter contests anymore because the prize closet is bare, or it's not about some other things. And so rethink things like that. Under normal circumstances, one of the most popular pages on a radio station's website is the concert calendar. We are not under normal circumstances. In fact, we're seeing concerts get canceled and scheduled. I would go so far as to say you need to make a decision. Either you are going to keep that page really, 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 really up to date, or if you are understaffed, and let's be honest, a lot of radio stations are understaffed, especially right now, you need to remove it from your website. And think about the same thing for an events page. And are there other pages like that? If you have a COVID-19 page on your website, don't try to be all things to all people. This is a huge global pandemic that is causing a worldwide economic downturn, the likes we haven't seen since the Great Depression. You're not going to fix it with your website. So know what your radio station's role is within the pandemic and focus on that. I think this is a case where don't try and be CNN, don't try and be the CDC, less is more. And so decide, find something that's within the mission of your station. If you're an alternative station, maybe it's about supporting the local concert venues and restaurants and bars. If you're a hot AC station, maybe it's about showing support and helping out parents who have kids that are homeschooled at the moment, or it's about showing support to local frontline workers. Whatever it is, pick your mission within the pandemic and focus on that. Go narrow. I think less is more in this case.
I have a question for Kat and Seth. And with that, like Kat, you had mentioned about taking people away from your website. With COVID-19, it feels like people want information, but they want to know where your source is. And so is this like one of those exceptions to the rule where you're like, you do want to link in them and bring them out to their website because they want, or because like Seth had you just mentioned, like you're not trying to be CNN. So where are you getting your local information, and do I know it's credible?
Yeah, that's one of the things we've seen is that some radio stations, they have a news feed, right, from a national source. And I would, anything that's automated on your website that is pulling in from another source, I would take a close look at that. I would know that. I've seen, for example, some some radio stations that they'll have a page that says local COVID-19 news, but then they're pulling in from a national feed, and so they're in Texas, but the local story in the local section is talking about what's going on in Seattle or New Jersey or whatever.
Right.
And so I would look closely at anything that's automated on your website, including anything that's auto posted from to social media. I think there's less a concern that people are going to post something that's offensive as much as something that just might be a little tone deaf in the moment. So I think it's just about being careful, but I also don't think, unless you're a news talk station, you need to try and be a news source. I don't think that's what people are expecting from their local music radio station.
Mhm. Bret, how are you, and the station, your station 93.3, how are you guys managing COVID, and what has been successful for you? And is there anything that you've changed within your sort of your day-to-day as as a talent, as a personality in the community? Is there anything you've changed that you can share from social media management perspective, or just in general on air?
I think that I just go through that filter of how does it affect the person listening the most. So I mean, I want to make sure I keep everything very North Texas and very Dallas, and how it can affect their lifestyle. And so I look for more, and I'm more of a lifestyle person anyway, so it really helps. But I like ultra go through that filter. Like, I'm not trying to give you up-to-date information on testing or anything like that, because I just am not that guy for you. But if I think that I know this information is going to affect your daily life, like starting tomorrow, restaurants will open up, and I can tell you which restaurants are opening up locally. I will give them that information because of this is the lifestyle stuff that can affect you. And this, you might be like, hey, Bret was I just heard him say that restaurant was opening up. What other ones are, and so I look for that. So I kind of look for the lifestyle filter.
We've done some research at Jacobs Media. We put a survey in the field that radio stations around the country, their listeners participated in, to kind of get a sense, because we didn't know what was like. And I can tell you that what Bret's talking about is exactly what we saw in the research, that radio listeners really wanted stations to, acknowledge and react to what was going on, but stay in their lane. And so if you are a lifestyle station, and that's what the station's all about, you are still a lifestyle station. You're not suddenly C-SPAN, overnight. So yeah, that's what we're seeing.
I like what 22 West has done here. I think they're providing some good, valuable support for local, for local businesses and things you can do to help seniors donate blood, etc., and supporting local businesses. So I think all of that messaging is good. It's nice to see, and that is pretty standard in today, but it's definitely something for people to be thinking of. Kat, you work with a tremendous amount of our partners on a day-to-day level and speak to them. And I imagine during the initial shutdowns and quarantinings and self-isolation, you got a lot of requests for maybe best practices. Have you identified any stations that you think are doing a good job with their COVID messaging, and what recommendations do you have for audience today in ways that they can enhance their websites with COVID relevant information?
Yeah, I think I sent you one earlier by one of our clients, actually, Acadia. And what I liked, and I'll get back to some of the stuff Seth and Bret talked about as well, is they have one section. So for me as a user, when I wake up in the morning, I want to know what's going to affect me. So that's the weather, that's can my kids go to school, is the park open, is my favorite restaurant open, that kind of stuff. So everything you're posting, in my mind, should be local to you. Like, what do you for sure know about that you can talk about? It's, again, not the CNN thing, because you're not a scientist. You don't know, anything about the virus or the cures or any of that stuff. So post about what you know, post about what your listeners specifically want to see. And all of this stuff is great on this Acadia site, by the way. Like, what time you need to file your taxes, where to get this information. So you can link to all of those other sites, which is what I need, but you don't have to be the one to give them more in-depth information. So I think that's a really good example right there as well, yeah.
Yeah, I also, a couple of other things just about this site I like is like on every page, they have their listen live button sort of in their sidebar, which is excellent. Because again, wherever you are on the site, you should be able to access that as well. I also like what our friends at Harvard have done just to support, obviously just as a PSA, and also just to support local businesses and, ways to keep the economy going even while it's shut down. Ideas like purchasing local gift cards so they can be used after all of this craziness ends. And I think, a big shout out to just great ways that they've sort of done this come together type feeling, which is a really important message at this time, especially for radio, because, traditionally radio has always brought the communities together, and it seems to be rallying again, to do that during this crisis again. So, they do a great job with their social media as well, and including those messaging into their social media. So I thought that was worth a little bit of a highlight here as a good example of what some of our friends on the webinar today can do.
One other thing I just wanted to mention was positive content is something people really like. So if you have, kids in your community who are buying groceries for elders, or there's some good news charity story, or someone's doing something good during this time, people want to share those videos. They want to share those stories. It doesn't have to be just about what's going on as far as the pandemic. It's about how is your community coming together? What are the good things people are doing? I think someone has that quote, right, where when something's going bad, look for the helpers. And that's a good way to focus on your community, your station, your site, and what all of you are doing together.
Pat, I'll make sure you don't get fired for that point just right there, because I love that quote and I think that's great. Seth, you wanted to add something there?
I do. One thing that I want to add, I mean, we know that under normal circumstances, the number one place for radio listening is in the car. And we know that people are in the car much less right now than they've ever been. Everybody knows how to, for the most part, listen to a radio in the car. You'd be surprised, and we see these numbers, how few people have working radios in their homes. And don't assume that people know how to listen to your radio station on all the devices that they have. And so I think one of the things that should really be elevated is making people aware if you've got a mobile app, how they can download that and listen to the station on the mobile app. If they can pull you up on a smart speaker like the Amazon Echo, how do they do that? And I think that is having that, those could be primary calls to actions on the website, but I think it's also about creating content, whether it's videos or graphics that can be shared on social media and even on the air, letting people know, let them know how they can listen at home. I have a Roku and I watch everything on Roku. I have no idea if I can listen to my local radio station on the Roku. Maybe I can. I think you got to tell people those things.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to educate your listeners, because hopefully for a lot of you, your listenership is up a little bit and your website traffic is up. So it's a great time. I think I agree with Seth that it's a great time to educate your listeners. Guys, you are all rock stars, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days. I know, you're all working from home and things like that, as am I. This is my closet door in my office, so enjoy that to our attendees, and I hope you're all enjoying my COVID beard. Not shaving it until this is all over, and I'll send you pictures as it gets uglier and meaner. But I want to thank all three of you for definitely adding a lot of insights and a lot of value today. You guys are all amazing, and thank you for taking time out of your busy days to partner with me on this. I'm just going to take a couple more minutes for our attendees here, just to remind you of some of the low-hanging fruit. I think we got some great insights on social media and how important it is to make sure you're managing to the respective social media platform to drive traffic, deliver specific messaging. Social media is really where your P1s are. They're there because they love you and listen to you all the time. So make sure, as Bret said, you're communicating the right messages and you're not just sort of slamming it on to all three key social media platforms, the same message. It doesn't do you any service, and it's not driving any traffic. I think we decided that your websites are very critical as an promotion for your advertising tools. We saw a good example of that with the West 22 site. Make sure you're promoting yourself. Make sure your navigation and calls to action and your buttons, as Seth pointed out, are very clearly defined on what they will offer and what they will get you. And make sure, Kat referenced, how the content on your website should be laid out and sized correctly. It should be current and relevant. And, the audience's eye should definitely be drawn to that content because that's where you can generate some impressions and keep people on your site for a longer time. I really hope all of you have found value in sitting with us today and can take back some nuggets. We'd be happy to do a digital assessment for any and all of you. Anybody who wants, we can formalize something and present that to you and give you some specific tactics and tangible items to go back and update your website with. You can always email me, eric@socastdigital.com, for information on how to get that done. Be happy to help you out. So would Kat. I know she's gonna kill me for that once we get all these requests in, but we'll be happy to help you out. And we look forward to our future webinars. We'll keep you posted on that. We will be having a webinar in the first 10 days of the month of May on our new SoCast ads platform, and we'll make sure you're all aware of that. But for now, everybody, thank you so much for attending. We're very excited to see you all again soon. And again, we will send you all of the recording for this webinar so you can take this back to your teams. Again, my name is Eric from SoCast. Please don't hesitate to visit us at SoCast Digital, and I'm hoping you all stay safe, healthy, and we all get back out of our homes real soon. So all the best to all of you. Thanks again for everybody's help today.